Welcome to the Lotus Map Editor tutorial. In this episode we're gonna talk about the trips. On this map we got two ways, which is the same route in both directions. And in the German tutorial I already created a trip in the first direction. For now we're gonna create the trip in the other direction. For this we obviously click on this plus, then we select the trip we wanna edit. You see every selected entry has this small gray dots around it. Now we can click on edit and get this window. Of course, we're gonna talk about the meaning of a trip at first, because you may ask, we've already created a route, we got a way, but what's a trip? And one part of the solution is shown here. This part selects a train or several train parts for this trip, and this trip is unique. Every trip is unique. Because of that, you will attach the time for departure of your first station to this trip. The conclusion of this is that we will have tons of trips probably, but this is fine. All trips are listed in this list. Since we got tons of trips, this list will fill in a quick manner. But it's also fine, because you won't need this list quite often if you set up your trips correctly. If you have to edit special trips or part of trips, you can do this in this list. So let's focus on the right settings for this trip so we don't have to edit it afterwards. The first setting is the category. In public, if we click on this list, drop-down menu, whatever, you get a bunch of categories, which are not even translated yet. Well, okay, for the German tutorial, I choose the Straßenbahn category, but I guess you know what bus, express bus, metro bus, tram, metro tram. I hope you can do it. We also got an internal category, which could be empty. For now, we got a very basic category for our freight tram. This specialty we could add in an internal category, but I don't do this because as this is internal only, it's only for me, and I hopefully can separate between all these trips afterwards. You could also put a name in here, but you don't really need a name. There are maybe a special trip with a special name, then it could be quite useful to put a name in here, but most of the times a trip is nothing very special. We could also set the AI priority, and most of the times I guess you will use this like way setting. If you click on this drop-down menu, you see you can edit it to the other options, but well, yeah, in most cases I used this option. Of course, the key part of this trip, or of every trip, is the way, so we choose the way in the other direction. As we selected the way is obviously shown in our map. It's quite important to check if everything is alright. And for this I can say it is everything alright. We also got a checkbox for the only AI setting, which is useful when creating AI lines. As this trip and this line is the key part of this add-on, we don't click on this checkbox. So let's move on to the train parts. Within the train parts, you can combine several trains to a train which will drive this trip. Every train part has a name, and we only need one train part, so for me this name is very useless. It's more likely to choose a train plan, of course, as this is the key element of a train part. It's also shown behind the name in this list. And now we need to set the direction of this train plan at the starting point of the trip. We got forward, backward, or random. For this we choose random because we don't know in which direction the train part will end at the last station. And if we choose one of these without knowing the direction of this train part, Lotus may be considering not to drive any further because this won't match the expectation and reality. That's why we choose the random option. For every further option, we have no use yet, but of course I explain short. The first station is of course useful when the train part will be added within the trip. The last station is useful when the train part ends within the trip. Also, you can choose between some traffic days. It's quite useful when some train parts are only driving on several days. We can force the tour start or the tour end with this train part. So let's move on to the tracks, where we could now edit the tracks and platforms for the special trip. What could it be? If we have two tours, which may be at the same time at this end station, we could tell them this trip ends on the other track or platform as the other trip. By now, every trip will end on this one platform, which may be full afterwards. Next step are the time profiles. We choose the standard time profile I always create. So this has the complete time profile. If there's something special in this time profile or for this trip and time profile combination, you can edit it also here, but there is none. So we're gonna check what the departure from the first station is. And here are some tips. You mostly will create the first trip of a day of a route, because it's normally useful to copy these trips and you will copy them to a later time of the day. So obviously you want to check which is the first trip of this route. So you can use this as an example to copy all out of them, which are basically later that day. Second tip is that you have to keep in mind that the day of a tram car is not from 0 to 24 hours. It maybe is later than that. So if your trip is starting or belongs to Monday and it's Tuesday 1 a.m., you have to put in the number 25 in here, because then Lotus knows that this trip belongs to a tour from the day before. As I said, I want to create the first trip of the day of this route, and this starts on 6:25. This will add the time profile for this trip. Last thing you could do is to add a time-dependent time profile. So if there are in the night or something other special things, the time profile could change to another profile. There should be some point when you got two time profiles where these might change. This could be within a trip, and you can add these time-dependent profiles to fulfill this change. The last thing for a trip is the requested signal route list, but as you can see, it's only a list. You can click something in it. That's all for a trip. We click on OK, and we got, for now, these two trips, which are the base of our line. So this is all for today. I hope you've learned something, and I see you in the next video where we are talking about lines and tours. Bye.